time. Hello, and welcome to Into the Liminal Abyss Paranormal Podcast. I am your show host, Shetan Noir, and today's guest comes from actually kind of the other side of the world because he's in Australia, but he has a lot of good information to talk about. And I would like to welcome to the show today Glen. And Glen, can you tell us more about your background and how you became interested in the paranormal?
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show. Well, I suppose it all started when I was 3 years old. I used to see people in my bedroom. There used to be two men that used to come and visit me, and I'd be talking to them for hours on end. My mum used to walk in the room and say, "Who are you talking to?" And I'd try to say, the men. And from there, things happened generally all through my life, up to the point then we had a severe haunting in 2001, which peaked, and then that led to another haunting in 2016 and the possible possession of my wife and her attempted murder.
Wow. So now, does that tie in with the video that I watched on YouTube of the Luca?
Yes, yes. Luca's not the cause of the haunting. He's just a symptom of the haunting. The jury's out whether he's good or bad. Generally, the vibe we get from him is actually good. He's watching over us. And one giveaway of that is animals absolutely love him. I've come home and found my Persian cat in a bear hug smooching to his face. Recently, we had border collie puppies 6 months ago, and one came home, got lost, and we ended up finding for the owner, came home, and as soon as we opened the door, the first thing he done was run to Luca and lick Luca and jump up on him and give him cuddles. Animals absolutely love him. Luca does move by himself. I've had contact before all this happened. I had contacts at the Warren Museum. I got a copy of an email. They were going to take him if we wanted to get rid of him. So Lucas, he's a big key part of it. He stopped moving about 2 years ago. Last time he moved, before that I seen him move. It was the only time I've seen him move, and then he moved again about a month ago after a 2-year break. But whatever is here is still here.
Now, for people who might not know who or what Luca is, can you kind of explain that for people who haven't seen the YouTube videos?
Yeah, no worries. He's basically a jester that's a jester doll. He's made by Catherine's collection. He's about 3 to 4 feet tall. He has his own antique chair he sits in and everything.
And then, so now is Luca the name of the spirit that animates him, or how did you come up with his name?
Luca was his name given to him by his maker.
Okay.
Yeah. The background on Luca was, we've got a couple of his brothers here as well. This is, just weird. There was a doll collector. She used to collect dolls. She was in her 70s or 80s. Anyway, she died, and her husband had Luca. And none of his adult children wanted him. They paid I think over $1,000 for him, and none of them wanted him.
Wow.
So he advertised him one day for $70, and I went up and seen him, and he was going to give us Luca for free. And I said, no, I'll give you the money for him, So that's when we brought Luca home. That was in about 2012, and that is about 2001 when the haunting first peaked, and the second time was 2016.
Now, do you think that the hauntings picked up because you brought this doll in, or was it just an ongoing escalation?
It was an ongoing escalation of it. Escalation. Sorry.
It's okay.
But I think this is, people say, was Luca haunted when you brought him into the house, or did he become haunted afterwards? That I can't answer 100% sure. Because some years later, that I found the first picture of Luca that ever. We had pictures of him in the car, and when we took him home, and I noticed that on that first picture we ever took of him, he actually moved that day we brought him home. Because we lined his chin up with a seam that runs down the centre of his chest, and his head was turned that day. So, yeah, at first, when he first started moving, I just used to dismiss it as like he must have been bumped or something, until the movements got so noticeable that it wasn't funny. We're not talking about little movements here. We're talking about massive movements.
Wow. So now you say that you think he's possessed or by a good spirit, but what led to the attacks on your wife?
Oh, okay. We might have to go back to 2001 where it all started for that.
Okay.
Yeah, we're living in a house. It was nothing eventful at first at all. It was pretty quiet. It was around about the same year. My daughter was born. Anyway, what happened was we started hearing scratching in the walls, and then my son, who was probably about, I don't know, 6 at the time, I think, he was in his room, and his door would keep closing. Like, we could see the door from the living area where we watched television. We could see it, and it slammed shut. I used to think that's odd, so I'd run up, open the door again, and he'd be fast asleep. And this continued, and it kept. The more we opened the door, this thing was playing for us to close the door. So I started putting heavy objects against the door, and the door would still slam shut. And I'd go in, and my son would be fast asleep. He'd be out to it. So one night we sent him away to a friend's place and put heavy objects against the door, and the door started slamming shut. And so we knew then something was going on. Not long after that, my other daughter's toys started going. They were battery operated, and I'd just go off in the middle of the night for no reason. And we'd have the scratching the walls. And then we'd start hearing gunshots in the middle of the night and children playing. We'd hear the children running through the house, giggling constantly.
Oh, wow.
And we'd hear gunshots. And it was around about this time the really bad thing came into the house. You'd be in bed, then I don't know how hot it gets over in the US. We've got a similar climate to Texas, except we have it all the time. It's like full-on summer. It gets very hot here.
Yeah, here in Michigan, we're actually coming into springtime, so it fluctuates between like 30 degrees at night to like the highest is like 58 during the day, and that'll happen from like March into April, and then you start getting up into the 60s and 40s at night. So
yeah. I think it's about 100 degrees for you guys. It can get up to, like in summer here, it'd be anywhere from 30. It can get 27 up to 30 to 40 degrees at night. It gets very hot, and humidity on top of that.
Okay.
And anyway, we'd be in bed, and the room would go ice cold. You're in the middle of the night, you're sweating, you got sweat pouring off you, and the room would go ice cold. And this thing would pin you down on bed, basically paralyse you and blow cold air in your face, constantly, freezing cold air, and you'd be paralysed to the bed. And that's the first time that made an appearance. And then we had another appearance in this house as well. It was an orb. It's not like an orb you see in videos and stuff. I've never been able to catch it. I wouldn't be able to film it if I did. This orb was more like ball lightning. It drifted into the room. It was brilliant bright white, about the size of a soccer ball, and it drifted in the room and exploded in brilliant bright white. And it hurt your eyes so much, even if you had your eyes closed, it absolutely hurt your eyes. The next morning you'd wake up like you had. Have you ever known anyone that's had welding flash before? If you look at someone welding, your eyes get very sore and swollen red. It was like that.
Yeah, my dad does welding, and that was one of the first things
Yeah,
we learned as a kid was do not ever look at the welding as it's taking place
yeah,
because the
yeah,
sparks are so bright.
yeah. That's right. You get really red, swollen eyes. And also about this time, I was sitting in the lounge room. It was one that really hot night one night, and I got a cold shiver down my back, and I had 3 scratch marks appear from the top of my shoulder right down to the bottom base of my spine, appear on my back, and they didn't hurt or anything. My partner seen them, said, "Well, what's going on with this?" And she showed me, got a mirror, and she said, "Go and have a stay there for about 20 just vanished." And then at this time, we also had an old lady that kept appearing to my daughter in her room, and she used to wake up crying. This is my middle-aged daughter. She'd wake up crying and screaming about this old lady, and a lot of this stuff reappeared again many years later. The kids and gunshots in the middle of the night. I can remember. I used to have to be waken up by them. I'd tell them that like shut up and they'd just go silent. I'd just tell them to be quiet. They got that noisy. And we had the kids' handprints appear on walls and all that sort of stuff. After we moved from that house, someone told us, I've never been able to confirm this, there was a murder-suicide in that house, but I've never been able to confirm that part of it.
Oh,
But
wow.
that's what we were told.
Well, that would explain some of the activity.
Yeah, yep. So, all right, continuing on, like, there are other things going on in that house as well. I can send you a big list of it. I used to record all this stuff, like write it down and stuff like that. Anyway, we moved, and I think we're in between that time. We moved a couple of years later. I developed all the symptoms of bowel cancer, every single symptoms. The doctors were convinced I had bowel cancer, and I had it for months. I lost a lot of weight very quickly and all the rest of it, and the symptoms just vanished as fast as they came. They lasted for months and just vanished. The doctors were baffled by it. I had scans, I had the whole works. That was the first bout of sickness, mysterious sickness I had.
And that all happened while you were in the house that you heard the gunshots and the children playing?
No, that was in the next house.
Oh, okay.
After we moved, everything went quiet. And then we went to the next house. It was pretty quiet, and we moved about 3 or 4 times. We had to keep moving because they kept selling houses, basically. And this thing just followed. Then also, we went to the next house. The next house after that, we had a little bit of activity there. It started there just before we moved, but then went quiet again. We had the scratching in the walls again, the bad smells, apparitions here and there of the old lady. One of my favourite ones that happened is actually the smell of the pipe smoke. There's a really sweet walk inside some days and it smells like someone's been smoking a very, very sweet pipe, tobacco.
Okay.
We had the shadow people and all the rest there, and we had to leave that house again. My daughter had seen the old lady there once again and all the rest of it, but we had to leave that house again. Then we moved to the house where all this other stuff happened. When we first moved to this other house, we were there for 10 years. So there was nothing happening there for a good part of 7 to 8 years. But in that time, I had another mystery illness. I came down with the symptoms of a brain tumour. I was vomiting up every day, walking the walls, falling over, and the doctors, once again, were baffled. They were convinced I had a brain tumour, and I was sweating profusely and all the rest, and I basically had brain scans and all the rest. It just hit me out of the blue and lasted for 3 months. Severe migraine every day, and they ran every test they knew, and they couldn't find anything. They even considered that I may have had malaria. We don't have malaria in Australia.
Right.
And
Right.
just out of the blue, it vanished. After 3 months straight, it vanished. So I lost a lot of weight once again. Absolutely lost a lot of weight. And then it went quiet for probably about a year and a half. Then the first sign of things starting to go bad again. By that time we'd bought Luca. Luca was in the house because he wasn't in the house before that. Just after, I think just after I had the brain tumour symptoms. And with Luca started moving, he'd always turn and look towards where my partner sit every night, look at her seat, always looking towards her. And I recorded some others. That's when I've got some other captures of his as well, like the child screaming, "Let me out!" And I've got the World War II whistle and all that. That's on YouTube. But the most alarming thing was the flies. We had this lasted for nearly, I think, just over a year, an infestation of flies. We were going through so much fly spray, 3 cans practically every 2 days because of the flies, and we couldn't get rid of them. It's to the point if I see a fly in the house, I've got to kill it. I just don't like them now. Our whole ceiling was stained with them. There'd be just 50 or 60 flies or more inside every day, and we were builder cleaners by trade, and we done bond cleans, so we, pretty meticulous about keeping things clean.
Yeah.
And they'd be all over the ceiling, all over the walls. We just couldn't get rid of them, no matter how hard we tried. And this was the second time that the scratching in the walls started. We started having apparitions of an old lady, old man in the house. We'd get up in the morning and all our ornaments on the shelves would be turned backwards, or things would be just moved. It was really weird. Like I've never seen anything like it. Like I collect a lot of little knick-knacky things, and they'd all be turned backwards or rearranged. Every single one of them. We had the bad smells in the house. I'd just appear next to you, really, really bad smells. People would come in the house and they'd get growled at. That was reported. And at the height of it, Luca was moving probably every 9 days.
So that's a lot of activity for to be experiencing, not just in one house, but in multiple houses.
It's been followed. It goes dormant for a few years and it starts up again. At the moment, it's semi-dormant. We started having the back door fly open in the middle of the night for no reason. The door will be locked and it'll literally just fly open. Fast as I could close it and I'd go to bed, it'd be open in the morning, or we'd be sitting in the lounge room, you'd see the thing burst open every time. We had the bed. This still happens every now and then. The beds will shake. They do it for everyone in the house from time to time. You'd be laying on the bed and you feel the bed start sort of vibrate, shaking. It still happens. We had animals, some pets mutilated, found them dead, but not just like dead. They were mutilated. Some of them were literally ripped apart.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Children's voices in the house, we had that. And that's the other thing that used to happen all the time. We'd be in bed and it felt like a breeze would rip through our room, absolutely be blowing through the room, and you'd hear things fly off the shelf, off your side cabinet and fall. You get up in the morning, there's nothing there. We've had the sheets ripped off us and blankets ripped off us. I've been woken up by tapping on the foot, and actually they will actually sit there and play with your hair at times. Like like a child would play with their mother's hair. This is the strange thing about this thing, whatever it is, if it's 1, 2, I don't know. Some of them are quite kind. We had doors slammed in our face, but even in this house a couple of months ago, we went to open the front door after doing shopping and it was locked, and we walked up to the door, went to put the key in it, and the door just opened for us and let us in. This thing can be helpful too. Sometimes they'll change a TV channel for you if you want it. I can't work it out. I can't make sense of it all. Anyway, we had the flies, the pipe smoke, the knocking in the middle of the night, really loud knocking, people being growled at. I had ghost hunters in. One got grabbed by the back of his neck and ran out of the house, absolutely panicked. I can send you a screenshot when I'm talking to him about that. And yeah, it's just been so full on, all of it. The only way I can describe it is think of Amityville horror, but it's sort of like that, but not completely like that, if you know what I mean.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So around about this time, my partner's personality started. I better not skip this part. When I had the ghost hunters in, they things were going quiet there when they first came in, and they said to, "Can you challenge? Do you want to challenge this thing?" And I said, "Yeah, okay, sure, I'll do it." So we're at it, called it name, told it was never ever going to get me, never ever, and it. So yeah, I sort of blame myself. So it basically took my partner.
Oh wow.
Around about this time, her personality started changing. She was everyone loves my partner. She's everyone loves. She's one of those people just naturally attracted and love her personality and stuff like that. But she started having blank stares, sweating profusely, constantly, always hot, wouldn't sleep, could never sleep. And then started going like a daydream sort of state. And while this was going on, Luca was moving every 9 days. I'm not talking about little movements, I'm talking about big movements. And he could always turn to look where she's sitting, always looking at her 99% of the time. And we had apparitions, all sorts of stuff going on in the house. Around about this time, I was outside and I looked up and I seen this hooded figure. It was broad daylight. I looked up and this hooded figure, head bowed, and I couldn't see no facial features. And I thought, that's odd. It's basically Glen Reberger. And then later on that day, I was out. We were back on the bushland. I was in the bush, and I looked up, and here it was again. I'm going mad. And after that, 9 people I know died within a month apart of each other. They just died. The only thing they had in common was they knew me. One was murdered, some were from sickness, and accidents and stuff like that. And also around about this time, I went to the doctor and said, "Look, I'm going crazy." I said, "I'm seeing stuff, I'm hearing stuff." I said, "I think I'm going nuts." So they tested me and they said, "No, there's nothing wrong for you, you're sane." And and not long after that, my partner disappeared.
Oh wow. Did she disappear like forever, or did she come back? Where she found?
Oh, okay. She vanished on the 16th of January, 2016. Just in the middle of the night, just vanished. In the process of trying to find out what happened, I discovered she had been planning to murder me and my son. Had arranged for it. It got called off. That was on the 12th of December. That was supposed to happen. She was going to try and pimp our daughters out for sex, 14-year-old and 16-year-old. This is totally not her personality. She's totally the opposite to this. But at this stage, this is what she was like. She robbed us blind, practically leaving us to get evicted, and just basically vanished in the middle of the night. We end up the day she left, we started getting death threats. They tried to carry the death threats out. She was missing for 6 months straight. They tried to carry the death threats out 3 times. She disappeared with. Went to someone she knew when she was a teenager, and he was a hardened criminal. I mean, he'd been in jail for rape, attempted murder, extortion, armed robbery, all the good stuff, basically.
Oh wow!
And he sent people up to kill us because she she started telling everyone that I was abusing her and all the rest, but no one believed her because they knew the kids and they knew me. And they didn't see how it made sense she left the kids behind with me if I was so bad. So we called her out on the lies, and he sent 3 lots of people to kill us, basically, 3 attempts. One attempt, my son was working very early morning shift at his work. He got up and he seen a white car at the front, sitting at the front of our house. As soon as he walked out there, the car took off. Anyway, he sat there idling in his car, and after a while the car came back and seen him and took off again and hid, so he waited. And then he found the car sitting around the corner. He ended up chasing him through several suburbs of Brisbane and nearly run him off the road. He was wearing a hoodie and he had a big duffel bag in the front seat. He was trying to... I've got the Reg A number. I can send you a screenshot of the Reg A number and everything. Everything I'm telling you, I can send you screenshots of the whole lot so you can read through it. If I can, I'll send it through to Messenger. Then they sent another lot of people when... I'm jumping ahead here when she was in hospital, and then another lot when my kids were in the shopping centre.
Oh,
and
my goodness.
I've actually had activity in the shopping centre too. This thing it's not confined to the house, and it's actually appeared in the car. But getting ahead of myself there. Anyway, she was held captive, raped, tortured, and basically strangled until she had to be revived 2 or 3 times, all the rest. After a while, months passed and I got a message out of the blue from her, and I thought, well, we're going to, because I've been, in the time I was hunting this perpetrator down. I was hunting him down, that's another story. And so I went down and seen her, and I brought her back up. She was in New South Wales, I brought her back up to Queensland. It's about 10 hours apart. And to visit the kids. She still wasn't herself. She was half and half. The old personality with the new personality was still there. Just got to state, when I found her, everything about her was different. Her handwriting was different. Mannerisms were different. Her, just everything you can think of was different. She had lost so much weight. I'll send you a picture before and after. You'll see what I mean. And she was sort of, the old personality was coming through, but it's still the other personality, whatever was in her, was still there. Anyway, I took her, ended up bringing her up here as an omen. When I brought her back up here, my car has never done this before, ever since, literally broke down in the driveway after a 10-hour trip straight. In the driveway as I pulled up, it broke down literally at home. Because she, as an omen, like, for her not to go back, I think it was. Luca was still active at this time, and anyway, she wanted to go back to New South Wales, so I took her there, and while I was down there, I was staying there with a little while trying to look after her. She had people following her down there, so I tracked them down and rocked up on their doorstep, basically. They were sent by this person to follow around when he wasn't there, because she'd escaped from him at this point. And I end up had an argument with her, because with not her, the other personality entity, whatever the hell it was in her. And I ended up coming back to Queensland. Probably a day after that, the offender with friends abducted her and took her for 3 weeks straight and held her hostage. They were planning to kill her. She jumped from a moving car. They took her all around New South Wales, and they were planning to kill her. She managed, in this time, we were at home in Queensland. I know it's getting confusing. It's hard to tell this story. And we just given up on her. We just wrote her off, going, there's nothing we can do. She's basically going to die.
Right.
And we're sitting in the lounge room. It was my daughter's birthday, and my son put a bag on the table. It weighed probably about 15 kilos. I'm not sure what that is in pounds. And the bag, and we just said, look, there's nothing we can do. We give up. We can't help her. She's going to keep going back. Whatever's got hold of her is just too strong. We can't do nothing about it. And the bag we're sitting there in the bag and we were just talking about it. Next minute, that bag got thrown 3 feet from that table across the room. And it landed with a big thud. It caught us all off guard. I take it something in this house, whatever it was telling us not to give up, basically.
Right.
Anyway, so we got to thinking and we ended up hacking her email account. And we got on the Google location services so we could track where she was. So we hacked her account because he was planning to kill her, and then we ended up tracking him as well because he had her in the car with her phone. And we seen he'd been to a sewage treatment plant. And I never knew the significance of that until probably about a year ago when I was watching an American crime show. And they stated, like, if you're going to dump a body, you dump it in a sewage treatment plant because they can't retrieve it. It's almost impossible for them to retrieve it out of the sewage treatment plant, out of the big ponds they got there. So that's what that was about. And then we tracked him to a remote location outside of Sydney, Wombat Flats in the bush was another spot. He was basically looking somewhere to kill her and dump her body.
Right.
Anyway, we started sending messages. We still had activity in the house and all the rest of it, and we sending messages going, we know where you are, we know what you're doing, you've been here. And so that panicked him, which bought her some time, so allowed her time to escape. And she was travelling through a town where her mother lived. They were taking her through, and she jumped from a moving car doing 60 k's an hour. Jumped out and ran straight to her mother's. On the way out, we're not 100% sure to this day, one of them either stuck a syringe in her neck or she injured her neck. That's the only injury she had. Within 3 days, she had a lump in her neck, and she then died twice, going into the local hospital, and had to be airlifted 500 kilometres from Dubbo to Sydney. Airlifted, and I was in Queensland at the time, and so I just basically borrowed some money and jumped in the car and started driving. We're talking about from where I am to where she was now 16 hours straight.
Yeah, that's quite a drive.
Yeah, as I was 3 hours into my trip, I nearly crashed the car because I was in the passenger seat. I was driving along, and a black figure, shape of person, appeared, and it startled me. And I turned on the track. Later found out that this was probably the close to the exact time that she died and had to be revived.
So do you think that was her popping into the car and then getting pulled back away when they revived her?
Yeah, I really do. We've had black figures appear in the car before, but they nothing like this. They usually appear in black back seats, and they're not usually human shape. This one appeared in the passenger seat as I was driving, and yeah. So so it sort of coincides with the time first time she died. There was 2 times. She got airlifted to the hospital, and this is when I seen she was conscious. And have you ever seen The Exorcist where they strap him down to the bed and then thrash him?
Yes.
Basically.
Yes. This
is what she was doing. She was thrashing. It took anywhere from 3 to 5 of us to hold her down. She was so strong. I watched her pick a nurse up with her left hand with drips she's got tubes in her everywhere, single-handedly, and lift this girl off her feet. She was on tippy toes. And I had to run over and jump on her arm to try and push her down. She had incredible strength, absolutely incredible strength. And she'd thrash and she'd try to be swearing and all the rest. After a while, she had to have a tracheometry, where they cut the hole in your neck and put the tube down.
Yes. Yep, a tracheotomy.
So she couldn't talk at all, but she was thrashing constantly. I asked the nurses. I said, what's going on? And they said, some patients just have the reaction to the drugs. And I'm looking around the intensive care unit, and no one was thrashing at all. They didn't even have a bed specialised for this kind of thing. They just literally tied bandages around her arms and strapped her to the bed, and she was thrashing continuously. She'd do it for minutes to hours on end, and then she'll just sort of pass out and wake up, and she'd have no memory of anything at all, nothing. It should just be normal. And then all of a sudden she'll just switch into thrashing and yelling and kicking and all that. I nearly got kicked in the head a couple of times. Nurses, we nearly got injured from her because she was so violent in that bed. But the thing is, when she got better, she had to learn how to walk again because she was too weak to move. But she was able to do all these unbelievable feats of strength. So after a while, 6 weeks she spent in ICU. They later told me that 3 days is the general rule in ICU. You either go in and they release you, or you die. Basically, simple as that. I seen 6 bodies while I was there, and 3 people died, if I remember rightly. Because I was actually staying at the hospital the whole time. I was there every day. Anyway, after a while, when she got out into the ward, we had a priest come into the room, and she was 3/4 normal then, and the priest came in the room, her eyes just glazed over, and she started getting very, very agitated. And the thing is, I didn't know he was a priest when he walked in. She knew, no one else knew, but she knew. And she was getting very aggressive, and she said, I don't want him in, get him out now. And she was going to get quite violent. I had to make up some excuse, I can't remember what I said, to get him out of that room without him realising what was going on.
Wow, that's so. I'm assuming that she was possessed by something if she was having a aggressive or a negative reaction to a priest coming in, and without him announcing that he was a priest, that whatever was in here just picked up on it.
Well, what separates this from mental illness is, I can tell you now, the person, she doesn't remember anything from that 6 months other than she knows she was in hospital. She doesn't know why. Incredible strength is one of them. And I'd say the haunting preceding all the events, incredible strength was absolutely one of them. And the haunting leading up to it is another thing I'd look for if you want to know someone's possessed. And when you sort of factor all that in, that's what sort of tips it for me that something was inside of her. And another thing that happened, when she died the second time, she had a near-death experience, and she told me about it in the hospital. When we were all there, in intensive care, she was conscious for a little while because she was in a coma, one half, and in and out of comas and stuff like that. She was conscious. And the crash cart, like in the movies where they use the paddles to jumpstart your heart. Yeah. In the bed not far from us, alarms went off, and they ran for the crash cart, running over. The person ended up dying. But she said to me that I think she wrote it. She can talk. At times she was semi-normal. We were trusting her with pen and paper for just every now and then to write stuff because we had to be so careful. You just didn't know what she was going to do.
Right.
She said that happened to me. I said no, it didn't. She said yeah, it happened to me. I said no, it didn't. because no one told me that she died twice beforehand. She had to be revived. Anyway, later on when she could talk, she told me, she said, no, I died. And I confirmed with the nurses, yeah, she was on for 3 minutes, basically. She said, I died, and I said, what do you remember? She said, well, the first time, I don't remember anything. Second time, she said, I went into a bright light. And my grandparents were there, except they weren't in their 80s when they died. They were in their 30s, 32 or something, around about that age. And then she said there were 2 kids there, teenagers. One was late teens, one was early teens. She said a boy and a girl. And I said, oh, yeah. And she said, yeah, well, the boy was really shy. He wouldn't come up to me. But the girl ran up and cuddled her and said, Mum. And that's when she realised the 2 children were the 2 children she miscarried.
Oh, wow.
And they had the names and the ages if they were born basically. So she spent time in there. She spent time with them. She said she felt like she was there for 8. For a long time. And then eventually her grandmother came up to her and said, you've got to go back and make things right. And she didn't want to go. And the next thing she remembers was waking up in her body. Basically, she was back again. Yeah, that's the NDE that she had at that point. And while we're at the hospital, I'd be on the phone to my son. Because he'd be watching his sisters up here. He's in his 20s, like, make sure no one tries to kill him. And I'll be down there. She was locked down in hospital. No one's allowed to see her. She's on the police guard, basically. Well, sort of police guard. The hospital and guard security was on high alert. The police were on high alert. No one could get near her. I was on my phone several times talking to my son up here. We'd touch bases every day, and every now and then we'd hear a loud growl come through the phone, and the phone would cut out. And so whatever was around was still around.
Right.
And since then, with Luca's still semi-active. He still moves from time to time. I've caught videos of recordings of him. Trying to record Luca moving is absolutely a nightmare. I've gone through 6 sets of cameras, 3 laptops, and a couple of computer tablets. He just likes destroying equipment.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Even you manage to save it, the video, you'll get it up there, upload to YouTube, and look at it, and come back months later, it's blank.
Oh,
or
wow.
the files are corrupted. He only gives you what he wants to give you. That's it.
Right.
Yeah, so that's, we still have activity. I've got a demonic voice I record in-house, because after all this happened, everyone, when she went missing, we grabbed a Ouija board. Everyone says, oh, don't use a Ouija board. In my case, it made no difference. We'd been haunted. She'd already been possessed. She'd already left. What difference was it going to make? So we tried to communicate to it. And it told us a lot of stuff that was going to happen, and that did happen. About her going to hospital and going to other places and all the rest. It also told us a lot of stuff about the offender, which I've passed on to the police. And I've also, not just the Ouija board, using other sort of methods, got a lot of information. As fast as they let him out of jail, as fast as I send information, he goes back in. But our legal system over here is not like the US. It is a joke, absolute joke in Australia.
Well, it kind of depends on what kind of city you're in here in the United States, because I know people who who have waited 6 months or more for their court date.
Yeah.
To actually go before a judge and have even the first, because there's different processes once
Yeah.
charges are brought against you. And I know people who have gone 6 to 9 months sitting in the jail, racking up whatever kind of bill they serve them with. And they are sitting there for 6 months before they even have their first appearance before the judge. So it kind of depends on where you are and what kind of representation you have.
Yeah, out over here, the sentencing is just a joke. You could go in for a murder and be out in 6 months on parole. You could go in jail for having a gun, and you could be in there for 15 years before they let you out. This is what a joke our system is over here.
Wow.
And regardless, I don't know what people think about guns in the US. It's a big myth about Australia not having guns. The gun ownership is higher than in the history of the country ever at this moment, and that's not counting illegal weapons. It's all smoke and mirrors what you say about Australia and the gun laws. You can do anything you want over here. You just got to get the right license.
Yeah.
And then if you...
over here...
Yeah, that...
Over here in the States, you can walk into like the sporting goods stores and you can buy a hunting rifle right then and there. You don't have to do anything more than put your money on the counter and purchase it. Now, for like a handgun, like a pistol or something like that, you have to like register it with the local police department. But for hunting rifles, for the semi-automatics, they don't have to register those. They can just walk right into even Walmart's over here. You can walk in and get your hunting license, buy your gun, buy your bullets, and walk out the door and do whatever you want with it. I mean,
yeah, it used to be like that over here. I remember as a kid, Big W selling them of all places. But that's basically what happened. There's a lot of stuff like that's sort of real, like to go into a real lot of detail on. I could go into so much detail. I've got screenshots of, I can send these to you too, me talking about what's happening months before it happened. I've got the screenshots with the dates on them. I talk about Caroline going to hospital. I talk about him trying to kill her. The other one I talk about is months and months before is lying in bed and listening to heavy breathing next to me. If you ever heard anyone for tracheostomy, once she was released from hospital, she was sleeping by my side, and the breathing used to keep me awake. And yeah, I've got a couple of screenshots of me talking about that before she went missing and during she went missing about the heavy breathing next to me. I'll send you those as well.
Okay. So now how are things? Have things gone back to your version of normal, or are you still getting the activities? What is life like now?
Yeah, the activity still continues, but it's sporadic. It's going through its hibernation stage, which is, we sort of worked out it runs on loose 7 to 9 year cycles. And it's going, at the height of the haunting, if 7 things, had 7 instances in one day, that was a quiet day. At the moment, we'd probably only have probably anywhere from 1 to 3 times a week something happen. It could be anything. The bed might start shaking, or we'll see that apparition, come home and smell pipe smoke in the house, Luca might move, all the rest. But the funny thing is, when you live with this stuff for so long, the haunting becomes normal, and normal life becomes strange to you.
Right.
It's people say that sounds crazy, but it's the truth. When you live in a haunted house, the haunting comes so normal to you. It's just normal. Like you'd be sitting there and something will fly off a wall or an apparition walk past you. You just look up and go, wow, that was cool, and you go back to do what you're doing. It's just become so normal. So, yeah, things are relatively normal, but we still have activity. I've still got a black mass that likes to hover over me at night time. Everyone sees it, apparently, except for me. I never see it. I've caught few things on cameras here, but I don't really check the cameras. When I try to catch Luca in the act of moving, I recorded him for 4 years straight, every day, and I got very little. Because, like I said, if I got something, the camera would just malfunction. Well, I've even had cases where the camera got turned away from him, to be honest. Like, it's like someone grabbed the camera and just turned it, faced a different direction. And so it's relatively normal. My partner's 99% back to normal, but she's still suffers from nightmares, horrific nightmares from times, and a bit of, post-traumatic stress syndrome.
Yes.
And stuff like that. I'll have to tell you about the time I seen Luca move. This is the only time I've seen him move. My partner was cleaning Luca one day, and she moved him and set him up. Anyway, I was inside, and I heard this almighty crash. And I go outside, he's just face first into the concrete. His face was shattered into 5 parts. And I looked at him, and I felt him. That's the only time I've ever put my hand inside of his head, and it's icy cold in there. It's like a refrigerator. And so I was looking at Luke. I thought, he's beyond repair. So I thought I'd give him a go and stitch him back together. And I managed to glue all his face back together. And then as I was filling in the cracks in his face and painting him, I had him sit, just holding him, and he's looking straight ahead, and I was using the hairdryer on his face. As I was doing it, he turned his head and looked at me. And I went, okay. I didn't sort of jump. I wasn't expecting it, but I knew he moved, and he turned his head and just looked straight at me.
Oh, that's creepy.
Yeah, that's a one and only time I've ever seen him move, ever. And other than that, when he moves, because I've always wondered how he moved. Because when I send all the pictures through to you, they're very big movements. I've always wondered, are they slow, like little incremental movements until you notice it, or is it just one big turn? And turns out it's just one quick motion. It was so quick. The last time he moved, first time in 2.5 years or 2 years, whatever it was, a couple of months ago, I had movement-activated cameras on him. And he moved so quick, the cameras didn't activate. They just didn't catch it. That's how quick he moves.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He's an interesting fellow.
I think you're very brave for still living or letting that doll exist in your home. I know if it was me, I probably would have rehomed him with some other paranormal investigators that I know of and who take dolls like that.
Yeah, I know it's going to sound crazy, but at times I swear he talks to me. At times, on rare occasions, happened once or twice. I was holding a baby guinea pig one day, and just the thought popped in my head, Luca wants to look at him. So I made my daughter take him home, show him the guinea pig because he loves animals. That's what I mean. This is the thing. There's a reason why we don't get rid of him, because he's not. He predates the original haunting by about nearly 10 years or so.
Okay.
And then when the ghost hunt is over here, no one knows anything about demons. I should tell you about that too. Yeah. No one can tell me what it is, what it wants, and how to deal with it, and what's going to fill the void if we remove what's ever in the house. No one can tell me that.
Right.
It's like if you had a vicious dog in your backyard, right? The dog was absolutely vicious. It hated you, and all the rest. But while that dog's in your backyard, it's also protecting your house and your yard from anything else coming in.
Right.
So if you remove that vicious dog, what's going to fill it? No one can answer these questions for me.
Right.
That's one of the reasons that we don't remove Luca.
It's better.
And we sort of made a pact with the family that Luca's going to stay in the family. We'll never get rid of him. Because the simple fact is, we don't know what's going to happen if we're going to remove him. There's no strong evidence to say he's actually bad, to be honest.
Right. And it's easier to deal with the things that you've become accustomed to instead of
the devil you know.
Yeah, the devil you know, and instead of moving those spirits out, and then who knows what comes in to fill that void. It could be good spirits,
Yeah,
it could be even worse spirits. So it's, if you can deal with it,
yeah.
that's, each person deals with it differently, but that's one of the things you have to take into consideration.
Yeah, I'll tell you the most creepiest thing that ever happened to us. This happened after the hospital. Everything I've seen a lot. You question your perception of reality. It's like you're going crazy. You think you're going mad, but if it wasn't for other people to witness it, you think you're going mad. I've seen a lot. Like I said, I'd have to sit down and really talk to you about going into depth. But this is the most creepiest thing I've in my book, more creepier than that Grim Reaper apparition. I was sitting down in front of Luca one day on the table. It's just on the computer. My wife was in our ensuite in a bedroom, and my daughter was in a bathroom. We were getting ready to go out. My son said, I'm sitting there. My son said, I'm going out. I'm going to head to the shopping centre. I said, yeah, okay. Anyway, I hear him go outside. He starts his car. I hear the car drive off. Not 2 minutes later, he walks in again, and he's just got a blank stare on his face. And I said to him, I thought you said you were going out. And he doesn't answer me. He's like really blank stare. And he walks into the lounge room and disappears around the corner, and I assumed he sat down. And I just went back to my computer. Didn't think anything of it. And my wife comes out and says, okay, time to go now. I said, why don't we see if Zach wants to come with us? She's going, Zach's gone. I said, no, he's not. And my daughter comes out and said, yeah, he's not here. I said, he's in the lounge room. They walk in the lounge room. He wasn't there. Vanished. So it wasn't him at all that I seen walk past.
Oh, a
And this
doppelganger.
also, sorry?
A doppelganger.
Yeah, and this happened to my daughter as well. My youngest daughter seen my oldest daughter in the shopping centre, and it's crowded. And this shopping centre, it's a pretty big shopping centre. It's probably nothing. It's probably small compared to what you got in the States, but anyway, but here it's pretty big. And she chased her from one end of the shopping centre to the other end of the shopping centre, singing out to her. She was singing out to her, trying to catch up to her, and my oldest daughter just kept walking and walking and walking. And then she disappeared around the corner. As she disappeared around the corner, my real daughter came the other way. And my youngest daughter said, why didn't you stop for me? She said, what are you talking about? I've just arrived. I've just walked in the door. And that was the second instance of a doppelganger there. Doppelganger, I can't even think of the name of it.
Well, that's the term that we use. And there's lots of reports of the doppelgangers. And it almost seems like whatever creates them, it's trying to fill its own void within the location of replacing the human being that just walked out the door.
Yeah. Also, like anyone who's going through a demonic haunting, there's 2 rules for demons. If you, so I found out, if you can know their name, you can get rid of them. And 2, they can't take perfect human form. So if you see an apparition and it's not, there's something wrong with it, like they're missing an arm or leg or something like that, yeah, steer clear of it. It's basically bad.
Yes.
That's one thing I've learned about all this.
That's one of the rules of engagement for when they're doing an exorcism is whoever the religious person leading it is, they have to learn the name of the demon in order to expel it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Oh, that's the other thing too. Like with the possession thing. Another thing, how I was talking about what separates it. No cause is found for the condition by doctors. There is no medical explanation. Sorry. When I was talking about how you tell mental illness from a possession, well, in my partner's case, there was no medical cause found for what happened to her at all, on top of no memory of it, and the activity building up to it and the incredible strength. They're the things you look for. And the flies as well. That's the other thing. Flies, right. Lots of flies.
Yes. Yeah, anything like that, like flies, bees, hornets, anything
Yep.
that can be a wrath
Yep.
is a sign of it.
Yeah. Now, I did, like, I went to so many people, including the church. I went to the church one day, went to see the priest about what was going on. And it's quite funny. I went in there and he said, "How can I help you, son?" I said, "What do you know about demons?" He said, "I help people with their inner demons every day." I said, "No." I said, "What do you know about demons that can physically manifest?" And this priest, he was tan skinned. He was probably, I think, Indian or something. And he went white as a ghost and absolutely freaked out. I showed him videos of Luca, and he ran out of the room and got holy water, started blessing my computer. And he was very, very shaken. He had to keep leaving the room. He just couldn't handle it. Because I don't think they've seen anything like this over here. It's just, we just don't have anyone that handles anything like this over here.
Well, I know, like, over here in the United States, there's only a special group of priests and pastors who actually deal with exorcisms and demonic possessions. Now, there are demonologists who will deal with this, but you really have to research the person and make sure that they're legit and they know what they're doing, and it's not just somebody who is, some crazy person too, also.
Yeah. I've had most ghost hunting groups won't touch this at all. They don't want to know about it. They rather discredit me or just be too scared to even come in the house or even talk to me about it. I've had one demonologist that offered to help. First day she tried to come, her daughter fell ill. She fell ill. Second time she came here. Then after she left, she was diagnosed with a brain tumor. Then I had a lump swell up in my throat, size of a chicken egg. And then once again, she tried to come around, and recently, and her daughter fell down a flight of stairs. So not real good there either.
Right. Yeah, something's preventing that from happening.
Yeah, it is. See, a lot of people, a lot of people think haunted dolls are fake, possession's fake. It's not what like you see in the movies, but it is very real. I've been there, I've gone through it all, I'm still going through parts of it. It is very real, and it does happen. I've seen a lot of people say this stuff doesn't happen, it's mental illness, haunted dolls aren't real. It is very real. Believe me. I can send you a video of, they're doing a spirit box session with Luca. I can send you videos of him, like, sending an EFM meter off the scale. And they ask him how many spirits here, and he answers straight away through the spirit box. Being a joker as he is, he says 600,000. You can hear it clear as day when they ask a question. But if you're going to ask a jester a question, you've got to expect them to,
right,
joke around a bit, because the spirits chose a jester for a reason. I'd suppose that, that they might like to joke around a bit.
Yeah, it sounds like he plays his role as the jester very well.
Yeah. So this was the other thing too. When she jumped out of the moving car, she'd had 2 knee reconstructions before that, and she had no injuries other than the slight lump on her neck, which later developed into a huge lump. That's what I mean by incredible strength. Like, to jump out of a moving car and you've had 2 knee reconstructions to the point you've got no cartilage in your knees, and she basically walked away unscathed, except for that slight neck trauma. It's I don't know. I'm still trying to make heads or tails of everything that happened. I know how the story sounds and all the rest, but it happened to me, and I have a hard time believing everything. But like I said, I've got screenshots of conversations from the time. I've got over 6,000 messages hidden away somewhere as well. But I can back up everything I say. I can even send you a copy of the bailiff receipt of the offender, everything. I've got everything here. I find people just aren't interested in the story because I think it gets them out of their comfort zone. They just wanted, a story about haunting. I had seen a ghost head, and we got rid of it with some sage, and that was the end of it. You know what I mean? I think what happened to us, it just challenges people in their perception, their perception of a haunting and their comfort zone at times. I really do.
No, I think this is a very interesting case, and there's so many different details in what you guys have experienced and gone through. I mean, for one family, that's a lot, and you guys are either very, very brave and strong, or very, very stubborn to let anything control you. So
yeah, I've got to tell you another really interesting thing about the story I forgot to tell you. In 2001, I think it was 2099, my wife was diagnosed with a cyst on the brain. It was size, I'm trying to think, basically size of an Australian 10-cent piece. I can't think of your equivalent over there. It was on the brain. It was inoperable. She'd been born with it. There's a great-great-grandmother had the same thing as the hereditary thing. She dropped dead by ironing because of the cyst ruptured. So we'd been living in fear for years that my partner was just going to die one day, just out of the blue. The cyst was going to rupture. It was inoperable. They couldn't do nothing about it. It wasn't going to go away. After she got out in the hospital, they're asking me for a medical history, why they're trying to diagnose that, because it took them over 3 weeks to find out what was wrong for her. She didn't respond to nothing, no treatments. And I said she had a cyst on the brain. So they gave her a brain scan because she had a couple of blood clots as well. So they looked for blood clots, and they couldn't find the cyst. And I thought this was odd. So when she got out of hospital, we went to the local GP. They had a record of this cyst on the brain. And so they ordered another scan because you're supposed to have scans every 6 months to see if it changed. And they couldn't find it. The cyst has vanished. It's gone. And I was talking to someone about it, and they said this often happens to people that die and go into the white light. They'll go in there with pre-existing conditions, even if they're incurable, and then they'll be cured by it by walking into that white light. And, yeah, she doesn't have a cyst on the brain anymore. It's gone. And the doctors are baffled by it. They don't know what's happened.
Oh, that's interesting. I've never come across that or heard that before, but that's very interesting. I would be interested to see how many people who have been revived that had pre-existing conditions when they died, and then they're revived. How many of them have had those pre-existing conditions, vanish?
Yeah. Yeah, it might be worth you doing a podcast on it one day and just put the word out. You might be surprised how many people this has happened to. I was the same as you. I never heard of it until someone said, no, I've heard of that before. It's also when she said that her grandparents were in their 30s when she's seen them, not their 80s, I've heard of that too, because apparently I've heard stories that people seeing their relatives are the same age because it's the age they died. And so when you die and you see them so old, they're always in their 30s. I've heard that before too, so I don't know if there's anything in that or not, but that's what I've been told.
Well, I've heard that older people generally, if you encounter them when you're in that gray area between life and death, and they're already spirits, they will appear to you in what they consider their their strongest form. So that would probably be in the 30s. Now, I've also heard that when women have miscarriages and the spirits of those miscarried children come to them, they are aging just like if they were a human child, and they appear to them
what she's saying.
They appear to them at whatever age they would have been in real life in their ghost form.
Yep. Yeah. Also, like, I don't want to keep you here too long. When we've done the Ouija board before, I've got messages no good, only evil before. And then I've got other messages telling us places coming to be named. But I can send you. You can hear its voice, the bad one's voice. I can send you the child's voice as well. Generally on YouTube, I only post the better stuff I get. I have got probably over 100 EVPs that are just junk EVPs to me. I don't want them. I post the clearer stuff on there. So if people wonder why I've got such good stuff on YouTube, that's why, because I just don't waste my time with other stuff.
Right.
If you can't hear it clearly, I just won't share it, basically. It's as simple as that.
And what's the name of your YouTube channel?
Haunted Luca.
Okay.
And I think there's one Haunted Jester. There's one with the earlier stuff on, and that account was hacked and taken, but the most recent stuff is you'll see Delarcher, the abandoned train tunnel where we got harassed by Yowies, aka Bigfoots, throwing rocks at us and screaming. And we got a disembodied voice in there. That was a really weird night, that. It's everything I put on there is straight off the recorder. I don't do anything to it other than amplified. If it needs to be amplified, that's it. I don't change nothing. And you'll see spirit box sessions with Luca on there, and him sending those EMF meters just off the scale. That was it. That was in his prime time when he was really active at that point. I only post on there probably once or twice a year. It's just because I don't really get out that much to go ghost hunting and stuff. But mind you, this is why I do this stuff now, because everything has happened to us.
Right.
I just figure, well, if they want to talk to me and all the rest, I might as well start recording it. So I go looking and stuff like that. That's the reason why we do ghost hunting now. Just I don't do it regularly. I just do it from time to time. And I honestly can't do any of this stuff regularly, not on a Ouija board, because once I do it, I feel so exhausted. I feel sick for days afterwards. It just drains the energy out of me. So I just do it just from time to time.
Understandable. I mean, it does draw your physical energy out of you.
Yeah, it makes you sick. It really makes you sick. Yeah, and I think that's about it. Other than that, I can send you some other stuff if you want to get in contact with me again down the track or something. I can go in a lot more detail and everything if you want.
Okay. Yeah, I'd love
such
to.
A long
Yeah, I'd love to have you back on the show in a couple of months.
Yeah, no worries. You can just work out what you want to ask me, and I can go into more detail, because if I was here to tell you about all the activity that we've had, you'd just be here for everywhere. I'll send you an invite to Luca's page, and you just scroll through that and have a look at some of the stuff on that.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Okay, well, we're coming up on about an hour and 12 minutes.
Yep.
And I would love to talk to you again in the future, and I want to take a look at your page and watch more of your YouTube videos. So I want to thank you for being on the show tonight, and I want to say best of luck to you, and I hope you guys are safe and everything works out good for you.
Oh, you could do just a show in itself what I done to the offender. I'd have to explain it all to you, but you could. That'd be a show in itself. Like if you got any questions, I'll send you all the screenshots. You can go through it, bits and pieces. I'll just send you all the screenshots through and all the rest of it. I'll add you to Luca's page, and you can go through it. But most of the stuff's down the bottom.
Okay.
But yeah, anyway, thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome, and I will talk to you in the future, and keep in touch.
Yeah, all right. Thank you. I'll see you later.
Good night.
Good night.